Hello everybody, James here, Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 106. We're going to do the plugs quickly, and you can join us on Facebook, Storytime with Dutch Mantell, as quite a lot of you do. We're building up a little following on there. Merchandise as well. I've got 2 books, Owen, Hart and the Rock. You can get them on Amazon, links are in the description. Dutch has got 2 books as well, The World According to Dutch and Tales from a Dirt Road. You can get them on Amazon if you want them unsigned, or you can get them signed if you email Dirty Dutchman with 2 L's at gmail.com. And you can also get diplomas, and you can also get other things as well. I'll bring up what you can get in a second, Dutch. Also, Pro Wrestling Tees, go there. We've got some merchandise out there. Do support the show and do buy yourself a t-shirt at the same time. And if you want to write into the show with your questions for Dutch at gmail.com. But one other thing, merch-wise, that you at one point might be able to get is a hat. And there's a reason. You sent me something about hats and merchandise that you thought would be a good tie-in.
Oh, the other hat I sent you?
Yes.
The Hart Tour. The Hart Tour hat. I'm sure everybody has seen the video now of the girl. She's from Nashville, I found out. And I think they filmed that, taped it in Nashville. And it says, what are some of the things that make a man feel good or something? And I laugh every time I see it because she said, well, you got a Hart Tour. You got to spit on that thing. And I busted out laughing. She sounded like she was from down south anyway. But the Hart Tour, actually the line is attributed back to wrestling. And who is the originator of it?
The Iron Sheik Bubba.
The Iron Sheik Bubba. Hey, I had spent 30 days on the road without going home with Sid and Iron Sheik. I'll never do that again. Well, first of all, because Sheik's gone now, but
he didn't try and hop to and spit on that thing, did he?
Oh man, Sheik he's a mess every day. A mess every day. So you didn't know what he was going to do, when he was going to do it, what he was going to say, when he was going to get mad, or who he wanted to kill somebody. So, but it never bothered me. But you know, I kept an eye out for him. But anyway, the Hart Tour, you know, she signed a hat deal, you know, like this, and same type hat too. Signed a hat deal, and she's allegedly already made like $500,000.
Unbelievable.
It is
unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Oh. Hey, who was the group that promoted the Sheik all the time and they kept putting his stuff out there? Who were those guys?
Oh, you mean the Twitter guys?
I guess.
It was like a pair of like comedians who like ran his Twitter feed. They still do, I think.
Do they?
They
loved him. They loved the Sheik. I ran into the Sheik one night and he had peed on himself. he had some like brown pants on or something. Oh, Bubba. And he had drank so much that he had just let go, and he didn't give a shit. I forgot where we were, but we was somewhere, but he was walking around and not keeping it a secret. So, but that's some of the things you run into with wrestlers when they get drunk and get carrying on and
pissing the.
But he was a good guy if you stayed on his good side.
I think maybe he didn't piss himself. Maybe he hot toured himself in his sleep. Maybe too much phlegm. Maybe. Who knows? He might be prodigious saliva producer. Who knows? Right. Hang on. You even put here, because you emailed me. It's like, I like this now. Dutch is now sending me news items to put in the thing, so which I very much appreciate as well. You even put at the bottom here, even Liv Morgan put out a tweet that referenced the Hart Tour girl. It's like, also, I'm trying to find out who she is.
Well, Liv Morgan put it out, and she was spitting on her belt. And spit on it. And she said, I just want to shine it up. And then she laughed. So, and the first time I saw it, I went, you know, That's kind of crude, but it's funny as hell. So if you haven't seen it, go. It's Hawk, HAWKTUAA. Hawk, yeah. So, but I enjoyed it, and it's got a lot of views. It's I was on Twitter, I guess, on X yesterday, day before, and it was everywhere. It was like, you go a couple of videos, then you run into it again. Somebody has reposted it, and so it probably has over, I don't know, a couple million views by now.
Yeah, you said over 5 million reposts.
Well, that's what I read, because I wrote it down and then I read it back to myself. So it's got to be true.
You read it somewhere. You read it somewhere. Dutch, there's something different about you. There's something missing.
No, there is something missing, but you haven't even noticed. Thank you very much. But you don't know what's missing? You can't place it or what?
Are you hinting that you want me to replace something for you?
No.
Oh, okay.
But what's missing is my cigar. I had 2 of them. I don't smoke cigars. I just chew on them a little bit. So this is a call for anybody that wants to supply me with some cigars that I'm open to bribery. So you can send me some cigars, and if you write me at Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2 L's at gmail.com and tell me that, I will give you the address to send them.
I mean, politely, that last cigar was on its last legs.
It was.
It was falling apart, basically.
It really was, and I was embarrassed to use it because I'd already chewed off two chunks of it, so I was throwing that away. Because I make full use of whatever I have. I'll use it, like when I'm drinking something, I'll drink it all the way down to the bottom. I don't leave anything. So
it's good. We don't want waste. Nothing else.
No, I do hate that. I really do.
No, you're environmentally conscious in that sense.
Well, I don't know if I'm that, but I am conscious of leaving food around and drink. How's that mustache?
Let me see it. I mean, you're fiddling with it. I want to see how symmetrical. Pretty darn symmetrical, I'd say. Pretty darn symmetrical, I think.
Pretty damn symmetrical. I got it.
When was the last time you trimmed it or like cut the ends off?
A week or 2 ago.
Oh, really?
But you only cut just a touch, a little bit.
Well, like the split ends.
But I'm cutting. I cut this side because it gets, all of a sudden, I don't know why it gets longer. Doesn't make sense, does it? For one side to grow longer than the other side. I don't get it. Hey, have you seen that MMA referee?
Yeah.
That braids his beard.
Yeah, but it's all mustache, but it's like from there down to like there. So he's got a mustache, but it goes like all the way on. That's why he's got like a really, he's got a very thick, bushy mustache anyway. But
yeah, but he has a long beard, and that's what he really braids.
No, it's mustache only. He doesn't have anything in the middle, I don't think.
Are you kidding me?
No.
You want me to? Okay. That's for. I'm gonna have to show it to you.
Hang on. Googling it right now to look at that.
It's this long.
Yeah, I don't think. Hang on. I've got my.
That's beard. That's beard. He couldn't get his mustache that long.
No.
And that thick.
Yeah, I guess it's somewhere in between. It's almost at like the friendly mutton chops level as well. It's not like full beard, but anyway, we'll put an image up. I'll put an image up, and we'll study that at our leisure. But we've got a lot of news to get involved with. And this is something that definitely didn't miss your eye when it happened, or anybody's. There was a death in the wrestling world, and it's the death of Sika Anoa'i. So it was announced yesterday that by his nephew Joe Anoa'i on Instagram, the father of Roman Reigns and the late Matty Anoa'i, best known as Rosie in WWE, has passed away at the age of 79, June 25th. And you told me yesterday, or the day before, I hadn't realised that you'd wrestled the Wild Samoans really early on in your career.
Oh, yeah. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were in let's see if this catches on. The mother church of professional wrestling, which was the studios of Channel 17, the superstation in Atlanta. And I was working, there were two companies there then because they'd split, they were fighting. So I went in one morning, or not one morning, one afternoon, because both companies taped at Channel 17. That's never happened before. They would go in about 10 o'clock in the morning and we'd come in about 2 o'clock. Sometimes we would run into each other, leaving and coming. So, and then I found out from the booker, Mr. Tom Ernesto, who was one of the famous Assassins tag team, that I was booked against these two guys, and I didn't even know them. And he says they're called the Wild Samoans or something. So now I had a clue. So I went looking for them, and I found them. And said, "Hey, I'm with you guys today," and they were very nice, very friendly. And I remember I had just lost a hair match, so my hair was almost bald. So I had come up with this gimmick that I don't sell the head anymore because it drove me crazy. So I went in there to tell them just how stupid I am. I went in there to tell them, guys, I'll sell anything except the head. I don't sell the head. And they looked at me like, well, we don't either. I said, well, and I decided that right then I needed to drop my no head sale because I weighed maybe 205 pounds. They weighed like 325. And they were like 6'1". I'm like 5'10". So, and they were two of them. So I said, okay, guys, whatever you need. And then I walked out and I went, damn, some big guys. But to be such big guys, and this is true about all Samoans, you never feel them. They're the lightest working guys ever. I mean, I was probably stiffer than they were because you didn't even feel them. They were like silk. And that's true with all of them. And I don't know, I guess that's the way they were trained. But I never felt them. I'm glad because if they wanted to do some damage, they could damn sure hurt you just by hitting you on the back. But we had a good match and I got out there unscathed, so I was happy.
Do you remember the first time you heard like the trope, if you like that word?
I like that. I like that.
Within wrestling, where
what's that mean?
It's almost like a cliche.
Like a motto, like
no, it's almost like a cliche or like a rule within television, or in this case, wrestling.
Okay.
That all Samoans and all black people had very hard heads. Do you remember the first person like you either worked with or you watched as a kid on TV who like had like an indestructible head, kind of thing?
Bobo Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. And I've always heard that too. I don't know. It's just something I grew up with, I guess. I don't know. It's not true, but
Hey, you were told.
I was told. I didn't know. I didn't go and check it out. So
you didn't go headbutt people, essentially.
But some guys do have hard heads. I mean, if they're hitting your head with their head and you're getting knocked out and they're not, so I would say their head is harder than my head or the head they hit. So these guys well, here's a story about I think it was Sika. I think Sika was the meaner one of the two. Afa was more friendly. Sika was the more serious one. But one time, I wasn't there, but I heard this. They had a riot in Dothan, Alabama, or semi-riot. People too drunk to riot there. But they were really, I think it was Austin Idol. He was trying to come back from the ring and the people surrounded him. And Sika was watching, and Sika went out there and just made a move at him, and they all backed up. And then, and then Otto went, hey, then he waved at him. And then he got out of there. But see, the thing about being that big and that mean looking is the people are afraid of you. Because hell, I was afraid of it. I mean, if we'd got into a serious disagreement, of course, we wouldn't have got that serious with it because I'd already, after the first couple of exchanges back and forth, I'd have excused myself and just hit the ankle express and walked out the door, or walked out on the road or on the sidewalk or somewhere.
There's another trope that I don't know if the Wild Samoans did, but some of the earlier Samoan wrestlers, like Nef Maiva, like in the 50s, did in the mainland, would, like, you'd grab them by the hair, but, like, aside from the hard head character, is that their hair was razor sharp, and you cut your hands if you touched their hair. Like, did you ever hear that at the time?
No, I didn't hear that. Now, where did you hear that?
Nef Maiva, apparently. So they said. But this is the 50s. So
I never heard that, really. Well, so if it cuts your hands, how do you sell it? Like this?
I think you have to rub your hands with ketchup first and then go shake it off.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. When was the last time you saw Afra and Sika? Did they turn up in the WWF at times, just like backstage to say hello?
Maybe once, I think. And I don't know if Sika even remembered me, to tell you the truth. Well, he knew the Zeb Colter character, but he may not have remembered me back when I was working under my real name back in Atlanta, back in those days. So, but both of them have always been very, very friendly. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about them. But my condolences to the, how do you say that last name? Anoa'i? Anoa'i. My condolences to the family. My condolences to Roman. And rest in peace, Mr. Sika. You'll be remembered for a long time.
Moving on. And there's another bit of news that quite frankly could have ended up even worse. So, Scorpio. Reports on June 24th, Charles Skaggs, aka Too Cold Scorpio, had been charged with first-degree assault and one count of armed criminal action, if it's easy for me to say. He's currently out on bond and he's due back in court next month. So the meat of it is that on June 15th at a Love's Travel Stop location in Kansas City, Scorpio was working as a security guard. This is in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. At the time the incident took place, and said the victim lit up a cigarette inside. An argument ensued over whether he was smoking indoors or whatever. Something happens, escalates really, really quickly. Scorpio pulls out a pocket knife. I've also heard that he was supposedly trying to reach for his brass knuckles. So, anyway, he got out a pocket knife and stabbed the man, claiming self-defense several times. Stabbed him in the abdomen, buttocks, legs, chest, and head. We've seen the visuals of the extent of the injuries, which are pretty darn horrific. Have you seen this on TMZ? Have you seen the photos?
Of the guy?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that.
Well, there's photos of him on the floor. There's photos of him in the hospital with, like, stitches all over the place. So Scorpio did quite a number on him. But
how many stitches did he get?
It says, I think it said over a dozen staples. Did I just say that?
A dozen staples?
Yeah. Anyway, he was stitched up pretty well.
Okay, I'm going to put on my legal hat here. I'm going to have to call my lawyer up, Mr. Berbrower. But this is what I think. Even though he was working as a security guard, I think that he'll probably get the worst end of it, because he stabbed him more than once. And what did the guy do to him? And he stabbed him how many times? 3, 4 times?
Well, it says abdomen, buttocks, legs, chest, and head. So we don't know if that's one stab wound each area or.
Well, it couldn't be in the legs. It couldn't be the legs and the head being the same wound.
Mm.
So you don't do a stab and then all of a sudden there's another stab mark over there. Oh, well, it was in the same motion. No, he stabbed him 5 times. So that's what I think. I don't know if he overreacted. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm going to think that no matter the guy lit a cigarette, but I think they said the guy recognized him, which I don't believe because he looks I'm sure that he would look a lot different in a Love's truck stop uniform, security uniform, than he would look like he would be going to the ring. But I bet when he goes to court, he's going to be charged with assault. And the other guy's probably just going to he'll be charged too. But I think Scorpio would get the worst of this deal. I wish he hadn't have done that, really.
I mean, we told the story not too long ago. You've been to get some beer or something while you're on the road and someone's smart-mouthed you or whatever it was. And man, these things can escalate quickly. But it just seems crazy that it can do in the first place.
Well, I told you the story about the Florida stop. Told you that story. Oh, yeah, he can get out of hand quick. Because the guy with me, he was drunk. And now this guy could have been drunk too. But still, he's a security guard, so he's working under Love's truck stop. He's under the employee of Love's truck stop, which are huge, huge truck stops. You ever seen one?
No. I mean, if I have, I've not noticed. No.
Oh, it's just huge because they pull those big trucks in. Sometimes you can go in there and they go there and sleep too. So they'll pull their trucks in and, they got a giant parking area, and I'm sure the guy was probably a trucker, didn't have to be. He could be just a guy getting gas or something. But if he lit a cigarette and it wasn't allowed inside the truck stop, which I can see why that would be banned. But and Scorpio said he attacked him. Is that what he said?
Well, I think they've both got different stories on that kind of thing. Yeah, but ultimately, whether he attacked him or not, I mean, stab wounds to 5 different areas of your body it's going to be tough to claim self-defense.
Yes, it
from
is.
That many stab wounds in that many areas.
I mean, if I was his lawyer, I could get him off.
Hey?
I'd go, oh yeah, I'd use
not Hawk Tui way, hopefully legally.
Do I look like a Hawk Tui person?
You've got the mustache for it, like the Iron Cheek.
Oh my God. Folks, just ignore James sometimes because he gets too rowdy here sometimes. Yeah, but I think Mr. Scorpio is going to find out that maybe he should have just did him one time. And what security guard uses a knife anyway?
I think that might have been from his personal collection. It wasn't
it was.
It wasn't company property.
And I wonder, is he still working there?
I can't imagine. I do know this, is that he has been taken off a Japanese tour that he was going to do very soon. He's 58 and he's still, working fairly regularly. And, to go back to Japan, he can still work, a fair bit at that age, even though he's a high flyer. But, he's not doing that anymore, and I can't imagine that Love's keeping him, at the very least, not suspended him over this.
Somebody made a comment that what was a guy like Scorpio doing working security on the third shift at a Love's truck stop? And I'll tell you why, because not all wrestlers during that period made gobs of money like they're doing in the WWE right now. They're not making gobs of money. And he probably, if he had $100,000 year, it would be a good year, be a great year, really. Or 80,000. Now they're making $1 million, 800,000, $2 million. But back in the days, wrestlers didn't make that, promoters didn't pay it. I doubt if the promoters were making that much. Tell you the truth, even though, see, when somebody would complain about, say you see this big house, so you try to figure out what the house is, you do some quick math in your head. Well, I should get this amount of money for this crowd, or this house. And it comes back and it's nowhere even close to that. So the old saying was, well, you didn't get first count. Because if it was a $20,000 house, well, It was cash money, very few credit cards, and I doubt if any credit cards were used back in the days when I was coming along. It was all cash. And the promoter would just run his hands in there and take a gob of money out and say, count it. Then they would count what was left after he grabbed probably $2,000 out of it. And then he would go ahead and split what the rest of it was. That's called getting first count. So, and when it come time to, and the rule of thumb was 30, 30, 30. Oh, it's like third, third, third. It was like a third for the expenses, a third for the talent, and a third for the promoter. So, but sometimes when you do a third of the house and you try to distribute it to about 16 guys, 16 talents, and a referee, those payoffs, and every time you add somebody, your money goes down more. It's not costing the promoter anymore. Say it's a $20,000 house, and what is 1/3 of $20,000?
6,600.
6,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
6,600. So if you put 14 guys, well, that's a pretty good payoff. They're going to pay the main event more, of course. But when you add 4 more guys and it's 20 guys, and that really rips into your payoff. Then add a couple more, then you're not making nothing on the house. It's a big house, but you're not realizing it on your receiving end. So, and that's why there was so much doubting of promoters and so much calling them thieves, and which in about 90% of the cases, they did thieve from the talent. The only one that I think that didn't really steal from the talent was Paul Bosch in Houston. Because if you was in Texas and you made Houston, that was your week. Things were like, and this was in the 80s, so you figure a gallon of gasoline was like $1.35. So things were so much cheaper then than they are now. But if you get a $600, $700 one night payoff, hell, a lot of people sometimes not making $700 today on some jobs. Not some jobs, a lot of jobs. But anyway, that was how the money was distributed. So,
or not so,
or not so.
To bring it back full circle, I never asked you this. Have you ever had any professional dealings with Scorpio over the years?
I just met him. Never worked with him. How old is he?
He's 58 now.
Oh, he's too young for me. He was no, but I'd heard of him. He did most of his work up in Ring of Honor. I mean, ECW.
Yeah, he flitted between ECW, WCW, WWF for a few years, and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So
I met him a couple of times, and that was it.
Yeah, good guy.
As far as I know, as long as he kept that knife in his pocket.
Well, yeah, exactly.
He said, "Hello, I'm Scorpio." Oh, that son of a bitch.
Maybe that's just the way he says hello.
Maybe. You will if he does it to you, I guarantee you'll always remember him.
Absolutely. I looked this up before. First degree assault in certain states can also mean basically assault with intent with a weapon as well. So I mean, this was in Kansas City, Missouri.
Wait a minute, assault with intent.
With intent to badly hurt somebody rather than just battle away and that kind of thing. Yeah. So,
but hey, it's a pretty serious offense.
Yeah. How many years could he get? I mean, I don't know Missouri state law or anything.
It's different. He could get 2 to 5. I would say. See how I said that, 2 to 5. In my legal voice. But if he's convicted, I don't think he's been in much trouble before. So I think he'll get. Well, I don't know if he'll get time or not, but sometimes they give you time and then they suspend it. I don't know what they do, but let's hope he doesn't get that. And I'm sure that he didn't just cut the guy for no reason.
Let's move on. We're going to go to WWE now and the Wyatt 6 debut and follow-up. So we spoke about it last week. You really enjoyed it, the the Wyatt 6. There's a big, long backstage vignette, lots of dry ice. Everybody's dead. Chad Gable's been shot, it looks like, through the head. I mean, he recovered enough for Raw, though.
See, I didn't understand that. I don't understand why Chad Gable was there with blood on his head or whatever. I didn't get it. Now, another thing, I'm enjoying watching the Wyatt 6. I'm enjoying watching it. But I don't know how it's going to parlay itself into in-ring, into a match. First of all, there's 5 of them already. And I don't know how they're going to incorporate. Are they heels or are they baby faces? Or are they going to be like Bray and be in the middle? You see, Bray never cheated to beat somebody. He just beat them. So what is where's the heat in that? And I don't know if he convinced Vince, get it? If he convinced Vince that this was the best thing to do, and still with Vince and all his experience, why did he think that would get heat on him? It didn't, because I don't know. The Wyatts and Bray, they sold a lot of merchandise, but I can't remember one angle that he was in that I remember. Do you remember?
Well, you know, with the Fiend thing, and then he's indestructible and that kind of thing. And you said this at the time, and at the risk of sounding redundant on 2 separate shows that I'm recording on the same day, you said, you know, there's nothing to boo the Fiend for because he's an indestructible badass. And then I was saying beforehand, no one was booing the Terminator at the end of the Terminator. At the end, you wanted the Terminator to kill John Connor.
Yeah,
or Sarah Connor, whichever.
A very close simulation parallel between both of them, because he wasn't a heel. The people liked him. And when he go out, they'd hold their phones up or whatever they would hold up. But I never really got it. And if I was on the creative team, I wouldn't know which way to go with it, to tell you the truth. So
I think
did he ever work with Undertaker?
Yes, but not as the Fiend. This was years earlier, before he was the indestructible Bray Wyatt. He did work with Undertaker, and Undertaker beat him.
Well, but anyway, they're doing a, how do you say HOMAGE? Homage?
Homage. Well, I'd say homage, but you probably say pay homage.
Well, I don't know what to say, but that's what they're doing right now with Bray Wyatt. And it's getting over, but they're kind of doing it in a way. They're not outrunning themselves. They're doing it piece by piece by piece, because they haven't even done an angle. So they're going to piece this in place till they find their footing. Then they're going to try to do something. But I can't think ahead of where they would go with it. I'm going to be very honest. I don't know where in the hell to go with this. And by them, the creative team, taking their time with this, they don't either. I mean, that's no big slam on anybody, but if you got and Triple H probably doesn't have so he's going to ride it like it is right now, and just, so when they booked the Fiend, is it the Fiend?
The Fiend, yes.
So they're going to book him under that's Bo Wyatt's under the gimmick, right?
Yeah.
Was that him under the gimmick in the video?
Yeah, they did the split thing. We'll talk about the
So
video in a minute, but it was, yeah. Just because you mentioned, they've got to wrestle at some point. But you'll remember this. You were watching SmackDown every single week. Bray Wyatt comes back, and he gets a huge cheer, and then he just does promos, and then he just does vignettes for months and months and months, and then at some point people did start getting sick of it. But there was like a sweet spot where for maybe like 2 months he didn't have to do anything and just tell stories, and he actually was a draw on SmackDown. He was helping the viewership at that point. So where's the sweet spot of dragging this out? I mean, in your opinion, should we drag it out as long as we can before putting them in the ring?
Well, you can drag it out if you tell a story. Up to this point, they've started a story, but I don't know how long they can go with just an interview and a guy under a mask. I don't know. Like I said, I'm lost on this one. And let's see where they go with it. I'm sure that, Bray, wherever he is, he's smiling, looking down. He's happy for his brother. And it was a very, very good interview. Because you'll watch it and there's nothing to say it's bull crap or it's this. But what I was thinking is, where is this leading? And I think most of the wrestling fans, they're listening to the interview, but at the end of it, they're going to say, okay, now where's this going? But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they'll surprise me. But I hope they do more with it this time than they did when Bray came back the last time, because Bray did nothing because the creative team didn't know what to do. Vince didn't know what to do. See, that was completely out of Vince's wheelhouse. He's never really seen a gimmick like that. And when he came back, they did nothing with him other than put him on TV.
What do you think about Dallas's performance? Because I think it's obviously the best thing he's ever done. Because he didn't really seem to do anything beforehand.
Well, with the beard, he does look a lot like Bray. There is a strong family resemblance. And he did a very emotional interview. And we'll talk about another emotional interview in just a minute. But it made you watch it because you kind of felt Bo missing his brother. And he explained why he missed him, wanted to be just like him. So it was, I think, a good performance on both ends. The Fiend talking to Bo, asking him questions. It's almost like he's in a counseling session with his brother. That's what they meant it to be, right?
Mm. There's one of the questions I thought was very interesting that they tackled head on is, are you exploiting your brother's legacy?
Yeah.
Do you think...
Well, I'm sure they are.
Well, yeah, of course they are. But, I mean, do you think they're doing it in a tasteful way?
Well, that's a matter of opinion. I think they are. They're not trashing his name. They're keeping him in the same form that the fans remember him. So we'll again, like my jury is out on this one, and I just think it needs more time.
Speaking of debuts or re-debuts, I guess, with Bo Dallas, because he's sort of like re-debuting as a version of himself. There's another debut that happens on WWE SmackDown this past Friday. The debut, finally, of Jacob Fatu. Now, this is a name that we've been hearing. If you don't follow MLW, if you're not like a hardcore wrestling fan, you've never seen him wrestle, but maybe you've heard his name occasionally. Makes a huge impact on SmackDown. You watched it. What did you think of the way it was handled?
Now, if you're going to get a guy over, that's the way you get him over. They gave him the complete end of the show and ended it up with that big dive off the corner to the table. And who did he dive on? Cody,
Yeah.
the top babyface. He took him out. So, and that just makes Solo Sokoa and his Tongan friends and Jacob Fatu, of course, they'll all be together, makes them a strong, strong group. Almost what you got to have. That's what you got to really need is those strong heels. Without strong heels, you don't have business at all. Uh, that's why years ago, let's take Memphis. Well, let's take Florida. Dusty Rhodes, he was the top baby face in Florida. And Dusty was running those heels through, running them through, running them through. Because they'd go after Dusty, beat him up, he'd start bleeding, then they'd work around the loop for about 3 months, 4 months. Then they'd kind of get a tag team partner, then they'd go at it again. Florida was a lot like Memphis. You know, when a big heel came from Lawler, he'd get 2 months to get over, then they'd do their run, usually in the summertime, because that's when business was the best. And they would really hit it strong to September. Then it would go down a little bit. And then it would be pretty good through Thanksgiving and Christmas. Why did it go down in September, you think?
Back to school, maybe.
Yep, back to school. But a couple of years there, when I was there in the early 80s, we went through September like it wasn't even there. That's how hot it was. So, but without the strong heels, you don't really have that sustainable business. Now, when Roman was there, if Roman was on the card, you had might have a pretty good crowd, a pretty good house gate. But now, if you put 2 or 3 of those guys that have been pushed strongly in WWE like they're doing now, it's spread out. Now, almost every match has somewhat of an edge to it. So when you go to see a 6-bout card or a 7-bout card, every match has a backstory. And that's what they need. Because nothing is worse than going out there and seeing 2 guys just get in the ring and wrestle. Now, we used to do that because the wrestling business wasn't as advanced as it is now. We used to do that and go through that. But now, the way things are, you have to spread it out. And this probably started in the early 80s too. And you started giving more guys more heat, because the more heat the underneath heels have, the more easily it is to integrate them into a main event. Because the people saying, well, they've seen over the weeks that this other heel is moving up, this other heel's getting stronger, this, that, and the other. And, you know, fans' minds, and now we've give them just a snapshot of what could be, and that memory is not very long. So once you get them there, now you got to tell the story. But Fatu will get over big time, and of course we're all gearing up for the return of Roman Reigns. And when Roman Reigns comes back, that will be big, big business.
Do you remember how you... Okay, let's say you've got someone coming into whatever territory you're booking, if it's Florida or Memphis, not Memphis, but Puerto Rico, wherever it was. How would you have booked a Jacob Fatu to be a huge threat straight away? Would you have done it exactly like WWE did? Or how did you end up doing it usually when you were trying to introduce a new major character into proceedings?
Same way. He has to make an impact on his first appearance. He has to make a big one. Now, next week, he's going to have to make a big one too. So you got to follow it up. So he'll kill somebody next week, I'm assuming. That's what you got to do with him, because he is so much more violent than even Sokoa is, I think, and the 2 Tongan kids. He's more violent than they are. So they got to keep him in that range till he hits those top baby faces. If they feed him a baby face, he'll eat him up. Because you want him to be ate up. You got to make him a monster. Because, they're trying to make who's the kid of Rick Steiner? What's his name?
Braun Breaker.
Yeah, they're trying to make him. I think they're trying just a little bit too hard with him, but he's being known for it. It doesn't take him long to beat someone. He just goes out there. To me, I call him the second coming of Goldberg. But he's made an impact, and Fatu made an impact. But now, since they got these strong heels, all they got to wait for is Roman to show back up. They just got to tell the story they're in and wait for Roman to show up. And that can take any kind of a form. Like Roman wants to slide in there and take over the bloodline like it was. They tell him, no, you're not going to do it. And that's immediate tension. And we'll see where they go from that. Now, The Rock, I'm sure, I don't know if he'll be back by then. I don't think so. But he will have a huge impact on what they do. And between him and Triple H, I got full faith in those guys that they will take their time and they will. And when a company like WWE gets hot, they usually stay hot for a while. Because we used to do a thing called hot shotting. Well, yeah, you can hot shot and maybe do one house. And then it'll just fall off quick because they don't follow it up. But even though we're watching in WWE now, the Fatu segment on SmackDown, it's the same as a hot shot, but it's following all this other great context before it. So he fits right in. So I expect great business in the future for WWE.
Very quickly, just before we move on to the next thing, as I was recording with Stevie earlier today, he brought up a point that there was one thing he didn't like. And I won't do this every time. Stevie said this, and then Dutch replies, kind of thing. It's not going to be that incestuous of a podcast thing. But he mentioned something, and he said, "I don't think Cody should have got even one punch on Jacob Fatu." Is that something that is a problem for you?
No, what the people are going to remember is Cody was down at the end. I think Cody had to fight back. If he doesn't fight back, he didn't even. I mean, he's your top babyface. And if a guy just comes in and lays him out without any kind of opposition, I think that makes Cody look bad. So I think the way it ended up that Jacob Fatu, is that his name, Jacob?
Yep.
Jacob Fatu looked monstrous. And Cody, even though he tried to fight him, it was too much for him. So, and I think Fatu, he probably has some anger management problems too. I think we might need to see him in a. That'd be good, right? When did this anger first start, Mr. Fatu? he just beats the shit out of the psychiatrist. But no, I think Cody was fine throwing a couple punches back because that would be natural anyway.
We're going to move on. Jim Ross. Now, we've actually got a couple of things related to Jim Ross, but Ross recently tweeted another trip to the ER, difficulty breathing, likely an overnight stay. I'll be okay, let's fight. And then he'd been in the emergency room about a month early with Class A flu as well that saw him in the hospital as well. But Jim is going through quite a time at the moment health-wise.
So what are we talking about? Just Jim?
Yeah, at the moment.
Well, he's having trouble breathing, and he had cancer or they operated on him for cancer back in February, right?
Mm-hmm. Skin cancer, yeah.
And when these things start, how old is Jim?
Early 70s, yeah, something like that, I think.
Well, when these things start, they have a way of continuing to multiply. And I hope he's okay, but he's going through a rough time, and they put him in the hospital because, as he explained, he's having trouble breathing. And is he out now?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I looked, but I didn't see any reports that he is out. What I saw, that he went in, and my prayers are to him but he said at the end of his ex tweet, he said, "Let's fight." So I don't know what that means. And I don't even know what hospital he's in. They're not telling you that. And I can see why, but
I mean, what would you send him?
My well wishes.
Oh, okay.
What else could I send him? A bill for what he owes me?
Yeah. An apology. An apology for having to work under Jim Hurd for 18 months. He borrowed
$50 from me one time, and guess what?
Go on.
I never got it back. No, I'm kidding. I've never loaned him any money. Yeah, he had more money than I had anyway.
There's a couple of sort of Jim Ross-like things that have come from his podcast. Conrad Thompson spoke on Grilling JR a few days ago regarding the possibility of Shane McMahon jumping to AEW. The quote is, "I know for sure that Shane McMahon has reached out to wrestlers on the AEW roster to at least hypothetically discuss the idea. Are we saying that's going to happen? No, we are saying that's not that crazy of an idea. Because it isn't. I don't think it's something we're unable to do. It depends on what he wants to do." So Dave Meltzer said that he's spoken to people on both sides, and that essentially Tony Khan has also agreed and said that he's never spoke to Shane in his life. But then in a subsequent interview, he also said that Shane McMahon is always welcome in AEW. So let's just play a bit of hypothetical here. Shane McMahon in AEW. Can you see it happening?
Well, in wrestling, never say never. Because I've seen a lot of weird things in the wrestling business. And, but I don't think he would go over there and try to run his own company, or him and Tony run it together. I think he'd go over there with the understanding that they will do a giant show together or swap talent back and forth. Now, they can do that. So, and while he has the pedigree, like that word, while he has the pedigree to go in there and run it for Tony, I don't think those two would get along. Tony's run it for 5 years under his own money, run it the way he wanted, done his TV deal. So what could McMahon do?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, let's say he's not going in to like be a shareholder in the company or actually take control over it or whatever it is. Let's say he's just an on-screen presence. I mean, is he better served in ring? Is he better served as an authority figure? Does AEW need an authority figure? I mean, does AEW need a McMahon when AEW was created to be an alternative to WWE? Where would he fit in?
Well, I could see him coming in, and they could tell a hell of a story. But Tony has he has a way of getting ahead of the story. He has the matches before they're ready. I think just because it's like he's playing on a little chessboard. It's just for his own amusement, and it can be for his own amusement. He has the money to finance that. But if he would take his time, and Shane, I think, would bring him back to earth, slow him down, I hope, and say, let's tell this story. What I would see Shane coming in is he comes in, and everybody knows he's got a lot of money too. He doesn't have as much as Tony Khan does. But still, money's money. So he wants to come in and make him a deal where he wants to take over the company, or at least 51% of it. I've done this angle before. I've done it in Puerto Rico, and we run for 2 years on it.
Who was it Carlos Colon and who?
It wasn't Carlos. It was actually it was IWA, and it was Savio Vega.
Ah.
And we was, not me, but I was never on TV there hardly. But it was Savio trying to take over the company. It's the same, like you remember Dallas, the Dallas
Yeah, JRU and all
series.
that. Yeah, yeah.
It was who was going to take over the company, who was going to run it. It's the oldest gimmick in the world. Who's going to take it over? And so I think Shane and Tony could work something like that. But I would hate to see the form of it after that they got it, because they could probably run by the story too quickly. Where'd you go?
Oh, sorry, I was just shutting the window. Do carry on.
Okay. But if they did that right, I could see that happening. I don't see Shane going in there trying to be a manager. I don't see Shane going in there. And now I think the only way that he would go is if WWE and AEW worked some kind of agreement to where they could swap just a little bit of talent, not a lot, just a little bit.
But that would also rely on Shane being persona non grata, or the opposite of, for WWE. I mean, he's got no connections to WWE now. He hasn't in a couple of years. So, I mean, that would involve a lot of political maneuverings to get that going.
What is wrestling? It's political from the get-go. It's, oh, make a deal here, make a deal there, go behind this guy's back, go behind that guy's back. So, and I think he's on a good enough personal level with his sister and with Triple H to go in there and present them. This is what he'd like to do. He's out of their hair. So, but on the other hand, WWE, they don't need that. They don't give a crap about Tony Khan and AEW. The only one who thinks there's a war going on is Tony Khan, because they haven't told WWE that, hey, there's a war. And WWE saying, what? A war? What are you saying? So we're trying to send those shells your way. He said, well, they're not landing. I don't know. We're over here at a picnic. And you're out there fighting. But see, to have a war, both sides have to know, and WWE doesn't know. Yeah, I don't see in taking your considerations, doubling them in. Yeah, I don't see Shane going there. And if he does go there without trying to do any kind of an agreement with WWE, I'll give it 3 months, and it'll die the death of a dog.
Did you ever see Shane during the Zeb Colter run, or did Shane never go backstage to WWE shows during that time?
I bet I've never said more than 50 words to Shane. He was always in another group. I'd say hello to him. He wasn't overly friendly. I mean, he was friendly, but, he had other things to do. But, no.
Did he ever referee any of like Bradshaw's matches, or the Bruce Brothers matches? Ron and Dom, by the way.
No, never did.
Okay, we'll move on. In fact, I'm going to ask you, I might just edit this out. In fact, I'll leave it in, but something else from JR's podcast. He named the top 4 worst wrestlers he ever worked with, or ever thought that he got into the ring with. I asked you to come up with your own list. Did you come up with a list?
Well, after I read Jim's, I got to agree with him,
Okay.
Especially on one. Brockus. I swear to God, he was, I should have had a 2x4 in the ring. That was the stiffest bastard. Not Bassage. the stiffest bastard I've ever been in the ring with. I mean, he locked up. He was like granite. You lock up, and he's like this, and you can tell it's. And I'm seeing lighten up, relax, relax, and then he was a bodybuilder, which meant he didn't go for conditioning. He just went for the big muscles, and in 5 minutes, he blew up and blew up. What I mean by that, he was sucking wind and he was out of steam. But then he got more dangerous because then he was hitting me. I've been in easier street fights than with that guy. Finally, I said, screw it, man, pin me. I down. So he pinned me, and I swear to God, after he pinned me, I got up and walked out, and he was laying on a mat like that. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I swear to God, I forgot where we were. I'll tell you where it was. This is what I hated about WWE or WWF back in the day. They would take some of their green ass guys, and instead of forming something like they have in Orlando, a training school, they would just give them to Memphis to teach them how to work. Guess who didn't get any money?
You.
The guys training them, right? And I said, and I told them one day, I said, guys, I'm not doing this. I'm not working with those assholes. They're going to hurt me. They're going to do something. And Vince could have paid something. I'm sure he was paying Jerry Jarrett. And I asked somebody, I said, are these guys getting paid from here? And they said, oh, yeah. I said, bullshit. I think Vince is paying them too. So they're getting a double check.
Yeah, well, when I was researching the Rock book that I wrote, great book as well, by the way, I believe that the Rock was getting something like, it wasn't getting much, but like $300 or something like that a week. And then you add that to the $40 a night he was making in Memphis. So he was probably making, what's that, 700 and something dollars a week, which, to be honest, was one of the better paydays in USWA in '96, I imagine.
Well, if he was making $700, yeah, he was making more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Really. I've got a few checks there, and I said, screw this. I just walk out. I wouldn't even give a notice. Then they'd say, Jerry would call me, and I said, brother, can't do it. I just can't do it. And he knew that. He knew the amounts he was writing that check. But he wasn't making any money either. I wasn't mad at him or anything, but damn. He just didn't, a lot of times. And then why do you think Lawler went to WWE?
Did you want to get paid? Oh, you want to get paid from his own promotion?
No shit. He owned, I think, half of Memphis. So when you get half of Memphis and you still not making any money. So, and he took off for greener pastures up there.
Oh, just one more thing on Brackus, right? You'll find this funny. Do you remember that boxing thing, that Brawl for All that Bradshaw was in? And
yes.
They put Brackus in there.
Well, he didn't last long, did he?
Oh, God, no, he lost in the first round. He was awful.
Yeah, because he's terrible.
Yeah.
He wasn't, well, first of all, he wasn't an athlete. He was a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders do not make it in wrestling because they just run out of steam. They train for muscles and cut. They don't train for, cardio. They don't do that. Hell, I was in better shape than he was, and I hadn't worked out in 2 years by the time that I worked with him. I thought he was going to hurt me. If he'd have hurt me, I swear to God, I'd have went back to the dressing room and I'd have found me a 2x4. And I'd have went on and I said, oh yeah, you forgot this. Boom. Not on his head, but because he was too blown up to fight me. And I don't think Brackus, I think where was he from?
Germany, I think.
Via Florida, I think.
Yeah, Achim Albrecht was his real name. Savio Vega beat him in the Brawl for All as well, by the way.
Great. Who else did Jim Ross name?
The other three that he named were, and we've talked about three of them before, including Brackus. Ludwig Borger is the one that we've not talked about. I know you've heard a couple of things about him, but I know you never wrestled him because I've brought it up before. Tiger Ali Singh, who we've talked about at length. We've talked about him. And he, as Jim Ross said, with Tiger Ali Singh especially, quote, didn't catch on, and we spent a lot of money on trying to get Tiger over, and that didn't work. They really did as well with Tiger. I mean, they basically made him the million rupee man. And like they lifted stuff from Ted DiBiase to
see, I couldn't get out from under the WWE influence. When I went to Puerto Rico, they sent the son of a bitch there. I said, damn, nice guy, but you couldn't draw a deep breath with him. He couldn't draw you a tub of water. So, and I remember, and I ended up getting sued. I've told you this, ended up getting sued because of Tiger Ali Singh slipping on a wet mat in Puerto Rico because it was raining. And he fell down. Oh, my back. And I told him, I said, get the F out of here. You're not hurt. I said, hell. I said, if anybody's going to get hurt out there, it's going to be me just walking to the ring. But anyway, Tiger Ali Singh, I've never seen an Indian gimmick get over in the States. I've never seen it. I don't get it. I really don't.
Well, they keep trying it because there's a big Indian contingent of fans. I'm not sure how many Indian fans they'll have afterwards because I don't think Netflix is that big in India, but I might be wrong there. But anyway, the last name that Jim Ross mentions is El Gigante, Giant Gonzalez.
Well, I know I didn't work with him, but he is, you could just look at him. You don't, listen, if you've been in this business a few years, and you can tell a guy the way he walks to the ring after a while. You can just tell by the way he walks to the ring if he's any good or not. And he hadn't even done a move. He hadn't even circled his opponent. And you can say he's the shits. And I mean, I'm not saying that they're not trying. They're just not good. They haven't had the time to adjust. And the way guys lock up, and there's the little things you look at that you just notice that, and I think regular fans, they notice it. Long-term time fans, they can pick it up too, because they've studied that many wrestlers or that much talent that they can tell if a guy has anything and knows what he's doing.
Were there any other names you wanted to bring up? We could even narrow it down, like WWF contracted people that they sent to USWA or IWA, somewhere that you had to work with, like a Brachus. Are there any other names that stick out?
There were a few, but I can't remember their names now.
Did you ever have a guy called Glenn Colter?
Is that his name he worked under?
Yeah.
I don't remember him.
No, he did work Memphis, but this was in 1999, so I think it was like it's just like Randy Hale's Power Pro Wrestling thing.
Yeah. From WWE?
Yeah, well, he was contracted for WWE for a few years, it seems. They were always trying to build him up, and then they just cut the losses, really, I think, with him.
Okay, The Rock said when he was in Memphis, he got $300 from WWE.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
And then whatever else he made.
Yeah.
Now, just remember, nobody else was making any money either. So you can imagine the other guys minus the 300 that Rock was getting.
Hey all, we'll get back to Dutch in a minute, but right now we are going to talk about Keeps. So for all you fellas out there with a thinning thatch and worrying about hair loss, Keeps is here to help. You can get professional hair care loss through Keeps without having to deal with the indignity of going to the doctors or pharmacy by simply filling in an online questionnaire, and a medical professional will send you a tailor-made plan for your circumstances right to your address in discreet packaging with options for 3, 6 and 12-month plans you can cancel at any time. 2 out of 3 chaps deal with genetic hair loss by the time they are 35, but Keeps offers both FDA scientifically approved options to combat hair loss, as well as hair thickening shampoos to complement your treatment plan and support hair growth, with most men noticing a difference within 6 months of continual use. With over 5,000 5-star reviews and 1 million men treated over the past 6 years, Keeps is offering Storytime with Dutch Mantell listeners a special offer by clicking the link in the description and pinned comment, or using the QR code on your screen. Thanks to Keeps for sponsoring the episode, and now back to Dutch.
We shall move on. We're actually going back to AEW again. AEW's record low viewership. So this was last week. There's been a Dynamite subsequent to that I'm very much looking forward to what the rating is on it, but we won't know at the time of this recording. It'll come out Thursday evening. So, this is from Inside the Ropes. The June 19th episode of AEW Dynamite featured the in-ring return of MJF, a face-off between Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay ahead of their Forbidden Door match, and multiple matches in the men's and women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. The action wasn't enough to entice viewers, however, as the episode garnered the lowest ever rating for a non-preempted show in Dynamite history. Programming Insider reported that the June 19th episode averaged 502,000 and a .16 in the key, 18 to 49 damage. It was something like 35 to 49 or something like that, I don't know. Like, they're just like left in their droves. And keep in mind that the rating for the week before sucked, and it was 681, so they've lost nearly 200,000 viewers in 1 week. Now, they're trying to blame it. A WBD rep told Fightful that it was just a very odd week, and he pointed to it, well, it's a federal holiday, and the Olympic trials were on.
Oh, yeah, and McDonald's was open late, too.
Yeah. Oh, and the sun shone.
Yeah. Yes. The Olympic trials. Nobody gives a shit about the Olympics. I don't. I do care about the smell. One time I'm going to tell the story. One time we was on a European tour, me and my Bradshaw buddy. They sent us to some damn like magazine shop or something, me and John, for a meet and greet. So we went in there and they took us in the back, and it's damn, I guess they paid for this. And they said, we're going to go out in a minute. And the people were lining up. And so we went out there, and there was like 50 people in line. They kept coming through the day. We was only there 2 hours. You talk about the smell. That would knock you down. The French don't believe in deodorant, do they? My God, one woman came in and she wanted to have she spoke English. She wanted to have her picture made with me and John. We got to standing beside her. I swear, it was horrible. And you get all those people in a restricted space. It was pretty damn bad. I could not wait to get out of there. If I'd have known who to tell, I would have went back and said, don't ever send me anywhere in France again, because this smell, I'll throw up. And so I think Tyrus said something about it the other night on the Gutfeld show. He said he went to France and he was in this arena. He said, at the end of it, he told this long story. The smell was just, he said it was horrible. Finally, he said, damn, one of you pin me so I can get out of here. And everybody laughed. So he's a pretty good storyteller too. But he was right about France and the Olympics. In the Olympics, just to have nothing to do with wrestling, they don't have air conditioning. Is that true?
Oh, I don't know about France, but we don't have air conditioning. If it's not a public building, then no. No one has air conditioning.
Well, the athletes are having to, get their own air conditioning for their rooms.
I mean, I do say that. I've got an air conditioning unit, a portable one, right behind me. As I said that, I just thought I'd best mention that now. Okay,
the hotels don't have air conditioning, but if you get a machine yourself, you can get it.
Yeah, but that was the equivalent, like $450. Who's gonna lug that around with them?
Yeah, well, that's what they're having to do.
Well, leaving the smelly French aside on that and their Olympic trials, which I love the Olympics. I don't give a crap about the Olympic trials. So it's like, no one's watching that.
Who gives a shit?
And I'll tell you what else they blamed it on. They had, instead of the usual lead-in for the Big Bang Theory, that atrocious sitcom, they had an airing of the film Black Panther, which got horrible ratings. and WBD and people in AEW.
Who was it? Who was in that?
It's the guy who died like shortly afterwards. I was going to say the black guy, but they're all black in that film. But do I have to find out?
No.
Oh, okay. So anyway, so that did a really horrible rating, and now people are saying, well, it was a lead-in, and also there was a Kendrick Lamar concert on, and also it was Juneteenth. I don't even know what Juneteenth is.
Juneteenth, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna smarten you up. It was the day that the slaves got their emancipation.
And what's that got to do with wrestling?
Nothing. Juneteenth is just they've just instituted that Juneteenth in the last couple of years. It's a federal holiday now.
Okay.
But it's okay if you're a federal, you can get the day off and get paid. It's good.
Yeah. Think about emancipation, not watch wrestling, apparently, according to AEW. So anyway, the biggest excuse they were coming out with was the Black Panther lead-in, right? So somehow...
You got it in for AEW today for some reason.
I watched Dynamite this morning while I was writing the script for something else. Oh, no, while I was writing the script for this. Oh, yeah. It was... I'll get into that. It was terrible. Anyway, I just had to listen to what Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez said about it, and they said, oh, it was really good. I was like, no, it was awful. It was a terrible show. And I had to sit through it for
Wait
an
a
hour
minute.
and a half.
I just want to say, who appointed Dave Meltzer, and what's the other guy's name?
Brian Alvarez. I'm fascinated to wonder why they think it's such a good show, and it was awful.
Now, did Tony Khan put Meltzer on the payroll at one time?
You see, now that's a rumor that's been going around for ages, and some people still... A lot of people in the industry swear by that. Has it been proven? No, I don't think they are, but I think I don't know why they love it so. And I'll explain that in a minute. But anyway, so for the ratings, the big thing is that it had a terrible lead-in. But, a lead-in is what, 10 minutes? And then, I'm sure all the Big Bang Theory fans... And,
now, what is the Big Bang Theory going to draw anyway?
Well, it draws really good. Apparently.
Does it?
Apparently, yeah. Even reruns of Big Bang Theory draw pretty darn well. And then, I mean...
So it dropped.
Yeah, considerably.
Dramatically.
So that's what I'm saying is Black Panther. So, okay, so you've got Big Bang Theory fans who also just happen to be AEW Dynamite fans, or maybe there's like 200,000 Big Bang Theory fans who fall asleep during the episode, and then the TV continues running, and then AEW Dynamite gets a viewership from it. That's the only excuse.
You can make excuses all day long. Back in the day, we didn't draw it out because, and I brought it up, McDonald's was open late. Any kind of excuse, stupid excuse that they can use. What it means is nobody wanted to see it. So even if you have a hell of a lead-in, and if it comes on, you can say, I don't know what's this, and you turn it off because AEW has no stories. They have...
Now, I'm sorry, Dutch. I must interrupt you there. AEW has a lot of stories, just none of them are remotely interesting.
Right. Well, what stories do they have that they could continue?
Let me tell you. I'll tell you this first one. It opened up with MJF doing... I'm sure he's about to do a promo. Then he's immediately interrupted by, of all people, Daniel Garcia. So I think they're in Buffalo, New York, and they're both New York guys.
Yeah. And
this is just for local crowd. MJF says, I really like you, and I tell you what I'm going to do. This is over the course of 18 minutes, right? I sent you the video.
Hey, when I saw 18 minutes, I said, I'm not going to sit here 18 minutes and watch this.
Oh, no, I even put in brackets, feel free to skip through. But anyway, a lot of talking, a lot of yelling for some reason. MJF really likes Daniel Garcia. Do you know what the people really want to see? Is you and me going one-on-one at Wembley Stadium at All In. It's like, no one wants to see that. MJ.
Okay, I'm sitting there watching it, and I go, what? Wembley? What? Hell, I don't even want to see it here. So I'm sure those people at Wembley, they got other things to do, like go drinking. That'd be more entertaining than watching a match between Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia's not over. MJF, I think, has lost overness from last week. He's supposed to show up remember my old saying, it's not the first thing you do, it's the second thing you do that has to really. MJF did nothing last week. Wasn't that his return?
Yeah, he returned last week.
And what did he do last week? Nothing, did he?
No, nothing of interest. And then this week he does nothing of interest. No one. If you're going to have MJF, keep in mind that he basically had to give up the title run due to injury, more or less, or had to be away for 6 months. He was the champion for the longest time in AEW history, and now they're putting him in the most mid-card of mid-card matches on like the biggest show of the year. So it's like, okay, well you've just shunted him down the card for no good reason, even though he's got a legitimate claim for a rematch for the title. Then you've got Christian and his family against the Bang Bang Gang. No one could possibly care about it. For a load of New Japan Forbidden Door guys, but for someone like me or someone who's casual, you wouldn't really know who any of these guys are, or most of them.
Okay, I've been around wrestling all my life. I know none of those Japanese people. Of course, I'm not who he's aiming the TV at, but I've never heard a wrestling fan say, hey, you see all Japan do this. I've never even heard that, because I don't even know any all Japan fans or any Japanese fans either. That's a niche group that follow that. I don't know any of them. Then you know what I find about Japanese wrestling that I find the most interesting?
The fans.
Well, the girls, because I love their outfits. I saw a move and I was going to send it to you. This girl, she does like a cartwheel, and the girl, boom. I can't find that move, but when I do, it's amazing. Now, okay, let's say you get a move like that. We haven't seen it, but I found first time I'd ever seen it. I loved it. Can you copyright a move that nobody else can do?
No. I know there was... In fact, you'd be able to talk on this, Dutch. There's sort of... Not a trademark on a move, but like if you go into a territory and let's say your finisher is the pile driver, and then the top guy in the company's finisher's already a pile driver, you don't also then do the pile driver, or at the very least you get permission from the most over guy in the company to do it. It's one of those like a patent in the territory kind of things. Did you ever have anything like that where there was too many moves like similar between you and someone else and someone had to give it up?
No, just between me and Sika, when we talk about the headbutt, He said he didn't sell it. And I said, okay, if you're not going to sell it, I guess my time here's up. So I walked out. No, but a guy wouldn't, if he came in, he had the same move, then they work pile driver versus pile driver. You could only win by pile driver. But again, like everything, it runs its route. It's not a long angle.
I know you've not seen too much of him, but it's Will Ospreay. We spoke about before, but Swerve Strickland is the AEW champion. I'll say this: I think he's the weakest champion that they've ever had.
Swerve Strickland.
Yeah, he just.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
I don't think he's main event. I think he's not face of the company material. I don't think.
Okay, I don't think he is. And Will Ospreay, let's go back to him. When he came in on the ring on MJF, I was more confused than anything, because now they're working toward Wembley, but they left this business here unattended to, and he never got an answer. I don't know. I was more confused than I was anything else.
Well, there was another thing later on that I know you didn't see, and Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree and his guys, and then he was confronted by some other people. And then there was a guy on the screen from New Japan who we couldn't work out whether Jericho was going to wrestle him singles or there was going to be a trios match. They didn't make that clear at all. And this is the go home episode for Forbidden Door, so we don't even know what's going on there. There's Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Vaquer, which...
What is that?
Just some woman.
So Moné just beat her.
No, it's not happened yet. That'll be on. The pay-per-view. I can't tell if Mercedes Moné is meant to be a heel or not. I was just watching it and I was like, is she doing this like smarmy, smug interview thing because she thinks it's a babyface thing or not? I couldn't work out where she was. on that either. So that was all it was just going to be EVPs versus Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, which is just a weird match. Just
okay, let me ask you about that.
Winners.
What's the girl's name, Monet? What's her first name?
Mercedes.
They need to take that girl and work a little bit of a love story with her, then have the guy turn on her. Then everybody would feel sorry for her. Then the guy could get a girl, and that's the only way I see that getting over. I mean, nobody gives a. I don't even think she's that good in the ring. I really don't. But she is a good-looking girl. She's really a beautiful girl.
I just don't.
But her wrestling, and that's it.
Or promos.
She's a horrible promo too.
Okay, so what do you think about this week then? So everything I've told you, I mean, it really wasn't a great show at all. I didn't see it last week, but last week was 502,000 or around that. Do you think it's a momentary blip in time and it'll go back up to 700,000 this week, or do you think they've genuinely... Because Collision and Rampage are doing all right, and then Dynamite's doing horrible in comparison. Do you think it'll just go back to 700 and something thousand this week, or do you think they've actually killed off some fans?
Excuse the language, but they've shit the bed. Hey, viewership just doesn't come back. It's a steady process. Remember how bad SmackDown was doing? They weren't doing bad, but they weren't doing anywhere close. And then they slowly, Triple H took over, slowly built and built and built, and shows got better. I think SmackDown, I watched it last Friday night. I think it was the best show they've done. Every match, every segment had a backstory to it, had context to it, they say. It had a story. So nothing, and it flew by. Now, when you watch a show and it flies by, that means it's pretty damn good. SmackDown flew by. So they handled that show. It's probably the best SmackDown I've seen since I started watching it 3 years ago.
But remember, by the way, your complaints of, it being too dark and the backstage segments looked cheap and everything, it's exactly the same as it always was. And obviously, you said everything was clear and matches had a reason. None of these pretty much had a reason, or if they did have a reason, it was unclear to me, who was a fair weather watcher of Dynamite, but I will be watching more.
I think Tony Khan books AEW like Lawler used to book Memphis. He would show up, I've been there several times, and he doesn't drink, and he doesn't party, and he doesn't stay out late. But he was late to TV one day, and he went in, and I forgot. I said, "What are we doing?" He said, "I don't know. I hadn't booked it yet." Wait a minute. You haven't booked the TV? No. Who's here? He looked back there, and he said, "Okay, we'll do this." And he was writing it out right then. He said, "Help me with this, and and this, and just take a break and do this." And then he would give it to the guy who would time it. He had a timer, and then the guys got their times. He actually booked Memphis TV after he got there.
He probably booked a better show.
Wasn't bad, because we had a lot of guys over, and see, Memphis, people used to blame Lawler for booking a lot of bullcrap segments, but some of his bullcrap segments were actually pretty good. I mean, sometimes they were corny, but he had a lot of kids watching at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. And sometimes that viewership, I think the viewership on Memphis TV, Channel 13, I forgot the call letters. Hell, I think it drew as much in Memphis as AEW is drawing now. I know it's drawn between 300 and 400,000 people. And that's just in Memphis and around Memphis. I think it's like a 70-mile radius of Memphis. And it was the top-rated show of the week, even beating the news stations.
I think it's just just for this last example, Dave Meltzer says it is, of course, a perception problem why AEW is unpopular at the moment, and it's nothing to do with the bless you. And it's nothing to do with,
It has nothing to do with the talent.
it's nothing to do with the talent, nothing to do with the booking or the presentation. It's those nefarious outside types who are telling you that it's not very...
Shut the F up, Dave.
But
Anybody who still follows you, I think they're lost in space. Look at it. It's like nobody else has an opinion on it except Dave. But he was smart when he started that newsletter. He was the first one, and he stayed with it. I don't know if he had any. Did he ever have a job?
Yeah, he was a journalist for newspapers and stuff. Yeah, like a sports journalist.
Well, he could probably say, "Well, a murder happened last night, but I didn't like it."
2 stars.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 2 stars for the murder because it wasn't enough blood, and they got to pick this up. I don't know.
Okay, we'll move on, but I'm gonna give you briefly an over under. So it was just over 500,000 last week. It's generally averaging before then around 700,000, something like that. Do you think this episode will be nearer 500,000, or do you think it'll be nearer back to normal 700,000?
I'm gonna pick 550.
550. Okay, we'll see.
And that's a blind guess. I'm on. I don't. Did they do anything last week to get this week up?
God knows. I don't know. I didn't watch. Hey, no one watched. So, Right, we'll move on. And now, this isn't all bashing AEW because they did something really, really good on AEW Collision last Saturday. Of course, they didn't do it that great. There was a 10-minute monologue interview with Jeff Jarrett.
I did.
The Collision episode only aired like 4 minutes of it because, there was so many like pointless matches they had to air instead. But there was an excellent interview with Jeff Jarrett on Collision. Give us what you thought of it and give us a synopsis of what he said.
Very good. And the reason I'm saying it's good is because he did this off the top of his head. Nothing was written for him. I don't know if they write interviews in the AEW anyway. But Jeff sat there and he talked to something very personal to him. And it's called the Owen. Is that what it's called? The Owen?
Yeah, the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Oh. Yes. Colloquially, the Owen.
Okay, the Owen. And that's the tournament to crown the winner of that.
And then they get a world title shot as well. So the stakes are rather high for it.
Okay. But Jeff, I think that's probably the best interview I've seen Jeff do because it came from here. It came from the heart. Because I've been around Jeff all my life. And when something touches him emotionally, he has no problem with crying. He will cry. He's very emotional. And when he started talking about Owen, I could tell that he was touched by talking about it. And he was talking about losing Owen. And then he lost his wife. Then he lost his dad. So he's had some pretty serious losses in his life. And it's not so much what he said, but the way that you kind of felt for Jeff during this time. Because he wanted to cry. He kept clearing his nose because, cry. He kept doing that, which is normal. And I think it's one of the best interviews he's done. It's believable. And even though they cut it down to 4 minutes, I watched the whole 10 minutes. And I don't know what they showed in the 4 minutes, but I think it served the point. And one of the best interviews I've ever heard him do.
Is Jeff a babyface now?
No, but he probably will be with this. It's called he can go out, but Jeff doesn't really, he cheats, but I don't think he needs to really, not in this. And if he did, I would say that it's for Owen. That's what he could say. Where are they? In Calgary or Edmonton, or where are they?
It's going across several weeks, this tournament. It's not
Oh,
going to be a
okay.
one-night thing.
So when is the final though?
Good question. I don't even think Jeff has done his first match yet, so I think it's just going to be over a course of weeks. And then I don't know if the winner's getting a title shot at Wembley or if it's going to be something else. I'm not quite clear on that. I think they've announced it. But it's just something else he mentions in the interview as well. I hadn't realised he was so close to Toby Keith either.
Oh, yeah.
What's the relationship between those two like?
Toby was a huge, huge, huge wrestling fan. And one of the first shows on TNA, Toby Keith came in as a guest and he sang a song. I forgot what it was. Good guy. You know, Toby Keith was a big guy. He's about 6'4", weighed about 240. He's a big guy. And then I forgot what he did. I think he guest refereed a match in Nashville, so the home of country music. So it kind of fit, and him and Jeff got into it, and he ended up getting the best of Jeff. And I think he wanted to actually do some more matches. I don't know what happened about that, but what he did wasn't bad, because guys that are performers, they want whatever they do and anything else to be good. And they had practiced, I think, several times before that day, just in Nashville. They had a ring set up somewhere, and he would go over there with Jeff, and they'd go over this. So he looked like he belonged in this match. You can find it. You can see it's online somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. Toby Keith enters himself into a battle royal.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think this was on the first night of TNA's existence. They did 2 shows. I flew in from Puerto Rico to do the shows. And I mean, the first show had a lot of problems. About 15 minutes before we was to go start taping, I think it was live. I think 15 minutes before, something happened to the ring, and nobody could get in it because it was going to collapse. So the Harris boys, Ron and Don, got up under that ring and fixed it, so they were ready to go. And Jeff was going nuts in the back. So the first time we had heard that it did something like, I forgot, some ungodly number of buys, like 20,000 buys or some 30,000.
I think they claimed something. Didn't they claim like 80,000 or something, and then it was actually 8?
That's what I'm saying. I think they may have said 80,000 buys, but I didn't want to bring that up in case I was wrong. But it was an ungodly number of pay-per-view buys. And then and of course, if I'd been in Jeff's spot and his dad's spot, Jerry, I'd have been happy as hell. I said, damn, we hit a gold mine here doing this. But then it came back, the guy who had told him that said he made a mistake. What? It wasn't 80,000 buys.
He forgot to carry the 1.
He said, it's more like 8,000 buys. And you could feel me. Even when they told me, I went, oh, shit, damn. But I thought 80,000 was kind of half of that. But it was a new venture, so they didn't know what it would do initially. So they kept that going under the pretense that it was actually streaming TV before streaming. You were paying for it, and they were actually ahead of the curve, but maybe not. It was too new, and it was like $8, $9, maybe 10. But so if it's 8,000 buys at $10, That would mean an $80,000 gross. And the pay-per-view company and the promotion, they split sometimes 50-50, or sometimes it's 60-40. So let's say it's 50-50. They would have got $40,000, but they were just starting up. So that $40,000 was eaten up quickly. And then I forgot what the gate was. The gate was like, I don't know, maybe 15 grand or a little bit more. I don't know. But it wasn't enough. And then they really, really had, I think 3 weeks later, they almost went out of business. 3 weeks or a month later, they almost went out of business.
Which leads me to ask, I don't know if this was very early on or this was like way after, during the Impact days and the Billy Corgan anthem thing. When did Toby Keith try and buy TNA? Or was going to be like a stakeholder in TNA? Was this early on or was this much later?
I think it was much later, really, I think. And then, but listen, you could never get a straight answer from anybody in TNA. I think they kayfabe each other. Hell, I didn't know nothing. You know, Jeff's not going to tell you nothing. Dixie's not going to tell you nothing. Vince, I don't know if he even knew. I don't know if he even cared. But, and I can't remember, I can't put a time frame on it. But he may have been wanting to buy in from the beginning. And he may have saw that maybe they had a lot of problems and said, maybe not.
Let's move on then. And this is something that I actually wasn't going to put in, but then I thought it's too funny not to. Ronda Rousey is coming out with a comic book, graphic novel, you know, for the some of those who are really into it, who hate them being called comic books, apparently. So, teaming up with, and also this is a Kickstarter. So, you know that kind of thing where you've got to get fans to actually pay for it before it's even made, that kind of nonsense. Anyway.
Group sourcing.
Group sourcing, crowdfunding, that kind of thing.
Why don't she pay for it?
Well, she must be worth millions. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
you pay for it. Well,
yeah.
Hey, why spend your own money when you can spend someone else's, I guess. Anyway, her code name, Mom. Well, Mom, as I'd say. With a fake baby bump filled with guns. She's built a reputation as one of the deadliest hit women on the planet. But on the verge of her big break in the criminal underworld, Mom makes a fateful decision. Sleeping with a potential target who just so happens to be a top-ranked assassin himself. A few weeks later, Mom finds that her codename is about to become a whole lot more literal. What follows is a wild mashup of action, adventure, comedy, and romance as a newly pregnant mom, with a bounty on her head, fights off wave after wave of assassins, falls in love with her baby daddy, and decides how to face her personal and professional predicament. Expect the unexpected, sets a new bar for the authenticity of fight scenes through a unique creative process developed by Rousey, Deodato, and the AWA, amazingly.
And you read that.
Oh, does it say bullshit on that can?
I just put it on there. Okay, this is what I think. Right off the bat, it's going to, I don't think they'll get many group sorcerers to start off with.
Well, she's alienated all of her wrestling fans, and she's alienated pretty much all of the MMA fans. So who's she got?
I don't know. Who does she have? AEW fans?
No.
Hey, since they have Mercedes Moné, why don't they get Ronda Rousey? That'd be a good matchup. Have Ronda stretcher right in the middle of the ring. Yeah, I think that comic book with Ronda is going to meet a terrifying end soon. Would you be interested in watching it?
No, God, no. What, reading it? No. I was never a comic book fan, I don't think.
Yeah, well, who reads that?
I think there's a lot of people out there, adults, that buy these things and read these kind of things, but I was never into comic books. Did you read comic books as a kid?
Never did. But I wish I did. Now some of those comic books, you know who was a big comic book reader?
Within wrestling?
Yes.
Shane Helms, I know, was. I don't know who you're thinking of.
Cornette.
Huh?
big time. Because he's got those magazines like 30, 40 years old. And they're worth money. But if you bought this, it'd be worth money in 2075. That's that. So all you got to hang on to it is 50 years, then it's worth some money. Yeah, I don't see that going at all.
Well, let me just add on to some of the blurb here. And you stop me when you're bored of hearing about Ronda Rousey talk. I felt like I had to tell this story because expecting the unexpected pulls from the most important parts of my life, motherhood, my career as a fighter, and fun action movies, I knew I needed an artist who how to translate my fighting from real life to graphic novel artwork. So it's been truly gratifying watching blah blah blah. So boring.
Here's the interest meter. This is on the deal. You started talking, and it went.
It's like Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, it is. It's gone. Ronda Rousey is the most uninteresting person, really, that I think I've ever met in wrestling. You know, wrestling, you run into a lot of characters. You have to run into a lot of characters because it's just a different world. But Ronda only got into it because of the MMA stuff. And that was short-lived after she got knocked out twice in a row after she was the greatest thing they've ever had since sliced bread. And then what's the guy's name that runs MMA? What's his name? Dana
White.
Oh, Dana White. He said, oh, she's the biggest star we ever had. Boom, she's gone. Oh, is she going to come back? And boom, she's gone again. Her last two fights didn't go but what, 3 rounds together?
Yeah, I don't think so. That's where Conor McGregor is now. Just coasting on past glories, really. And I think
that's it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm going to leave the Triple H. We might get back to the Triple H Netflix stuff, but we'll move on for now because there's something I briefly want to mention. Matt Camp fired. Now, I know what you're thinking, Dutch.
I don't know who he is.
Exactly. So, he's the former host of The Bump. So,
and what is that?
It's sort of like what we do, really. It's a YouTube show that he had once a week, and it was on the network as well. So apparently he was a host on it. I saw a picture of him.
It's boring as hell.
Oh, you saw something of him?
No, but I've heard of the show. I've never heard of him. So, does he have anybody watching him?
Well, I guess some people must have been. I imagine it's popular enough, like depending on the guest. But I saw a photo of him, and he had a denim jacket with an action figure sticking out of it, and I thought that's someone I can respect. I didn't think that, Dutch. I thought the opposite. No. So anyway, he was having a good old complaint. He was let go. His dismissal was reported by Mike Johnson of PW Insider, while the WWE said very little about letting him go. I was told, quote, it had nothing to do with anything I did. Well, maybe it's something you didn't do.
I think you did.
It's always one of those things where there's nothing you've done. You know, it's like a relationship kind of thing. It's like, we've drifted apart, you know.
Yeah, we're just cutting some edges here.
It's funny you say that. It was a cost-cutting measure, whatever you want to call it, you know, or tightening the budget. I reached out to Michael Cole and I said, hey, anything you could tell me? And he was basically, oh, okay, I guess you heard blah, 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 and more changes coming to the team. So they gave him the old flannel, gave him the old brush off kind of thing. So Camp notes that The Rock had photos with everyone and explained why he was still employed. Despite that, he being Matt Camp, was gone within 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So is this the first time he's been released? Welcome to wrestling. Welcome to it. Okay, I'm going to bring up something now I didn't write it down. I didn't send it to you, but I just read this. Cody Rhodes says the first red flag that he sees when a new guy joins a company, a veteran, is when he says, have you read this?
I did read this, yes.
It's when he says, I'm just here to help the boys, help the guys. And he says, I'd have a lot more respect for him if he just told the truth, So it sounds like Cody is turning into a grizzled old bastard already.
Does it not, I've put my glasses on, does it not happen when you're a second generation wrestler and you just see it from an early age? Don't you just get more grizzled earlier?
Well, I think he got grizzled when he was with WWE 10 years ago. He was probably getting grizzled, but yeah, because he's seen it, heard it from his dad. But so if a guy comes into the territory as a veteran and he says, I'm just here to help the guys, I don't see what's wrong with that, even if it is not what he's there. He's there to make money. He's there to get a check. But instead of making himself look bad, he said, oh, I'm just here for the guys. That's the red flag. So I don't know what the red flag does for Cody. Does it make him not trust him or what? I don't know.
Does he see that as a disingenuous statement?
I guess. And it's almost like, Cody's never said anything that he didn't mean. Hey, in any business, some people are they're going to say things they don't mean. They say things to save face or whatever. And yeah, when a veteran comes in, they're not going to use him on top. They're going to use him in the middle. And because he knows what he's doing. And they know they can put him out there and he'll have a good match no matter who they put him out there with. But if he comes in, I'm just here to. See, I like guys come in and said, hell, I come in because I was starving to death. I needed a check. I needed a job, which is mostly the reason they come in because, you can make all the money in the world, but if you don't have good investments, that money's going to run out if you just keep spending it. So they need a job to replace that.
Do you know what Chris Jericho said in his interview, in character, because he's doing the learning tree thing? He said, everybody knows in AEW that I'm here to help the younger guys.
Yeah.
And it almost seemed like a direct reference to that, so I thought the timing of it was very clever.
Well, that's probably a joke. I'm here to... Everybody knows Chris. No, he's not there to help the younger guys.
Yeah,
he's there to get
multi-millionaire Chris Jericho.
Yeah, he's there to get a check too and keep it rolling. I don't blame him. So,
well, speaking of, I'm going to bring it back to Matt Camp here because he was told, the whole thing that I said before, The Rock is shaking hands, taking photos. Oh, I really like you, and then you fight a few weeks later. I'm trying to find the exact quote, but essentially someone told him, hey, at WWE here, we're a family.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, have you never worked for a business ever? You're not family. You're expendable.
Everybody's expendable. If the boss comes down and he says, hey, Vince would fire people just on the spur of the moment. Just because the way the guy was looking at him, he said, all right, get your stuff and get out. But he could do that. See, I don't know if they can do that. I don't think Tony Khan would do anybody that way. I don't think Triple H would do anybody that way. They'd tell somebody else to get rid of them, but Vince would just go right up to him and say, "All right, get your stuff and get out. You're fired."
Well, welcome to the world of wrestling, I guess. Right, we're going to talk about one more thing that I just had to bring up to you because I knew you'd love it. Is this... we talked about some of Vince Russo's less wonderful creative ideas. There was a couple of months ago where there was an entire book full of these things, like a women's only promotion, and I can't remember any of the names, but they're outrageously bad. Anyway, is this Vince Russo's worst idea ever? So, former WCW magazine editor Kevin Eck had the following to say regarding what may have been Vince Russo's most insane idea ever. So this was in WCW as well. One that really sticks out is Russo kept saying that we need some kind of publicity stunt. I recall him very specifically saying, I know I'm doing my job, I know the storylines are great, I'm doing what I can do, but nobody's watching. Nobody knows how great it is, so we need a publicity stunt. He threw out the idea, O.J. Simpson. Take you back to the days of when OJ was still a big thing. This was a guess maybe 5 years after the trial. I guess OJ had said something like if he gets paid $1 million, he'll take a lie detector test on TV or something like that. He had made some kind of statement. Russo said that he wanted WCW to pay him the $1 million and let's have OJ take a lie detector test on live TV. That was his big idea. OJ Simpson on wrestling. It could work.
Now, who said this? Who said it was the worst idea he ever had?
Kevin Eck, he was a former WCW magazine editor.
Actually, I kind of liked the idea because if they got enough publicity behind O.J. Simpson taking a test, I don't know how it worked with wrestling because I think people would immediately write it off. But I don't think it's the worst idea I've ever had. I think it was the hottest thing that would get the people's interest off the bat. I remember the day that I'm watching TV in Puerto Rico. And I bet you're saying, Puerto Rico, you said, how long were you down there? No, I was down there several years.
I know. Wasn't your stretch like 96 to 2003? It was like 7
No, I
years
wasn't there,
something like
but
that.
it was always broken up. Because this is what would happen. I'd get down there and I'd get pissed off. And I said, I'm going home. And I'd go home for like 6 weeks. Ring, ring. I'd be there. Hello, Carlos. How you doing? I'm doing okay. How are you? Hey, man, you done being mad? Yeah, pretty much. You want to come back? Yeah, send me a ticket. Then I'd go back. I'd be good for another 3 months, 4 months, and I'd get pissed off again and leave again. So, and that's how it worked. But I don't think it's the worst idea that Vince ever had.
Well, you said you were in Puerto Rico, you were watching
Oh, I'm
TV.
watching.
Yeah.
I'm watching TV, and that's when the O.J. Simpson, the chase. When they were after him on the number, Interstate 5 freeway, the freeway chase. They were chasing him. He had that Al Cowlings with him or whatever. And I said, damn. And they carried this really wall to wall. And then he was arrested. He went back home. They got him out. They arrested him, took him down. And from that moment on, it was almost during that, it was on, multiple hours a day to the trial. Then the trial, of course, they carried the trial. And so O.J. Simpson had a lot of publicity. They've had a guy come out now and says that he actually killed the girl.
No, did he?
That's what I read. I'm going to find it and I'm going to send it to you.
You should do. You get loads of these like hero chases or like infamy chases, don't you? Or confess to anything just to get noticed. But it's like, how do you even book OJ? So I wrote down here, you know how so Vince Russo loves a pole match, right?
Yeah.
You know a coal miner's glove match?
Yes.
Bloody glove on a pole match, right?
Very good.
And then the first one is to get the glove and then pretend that they can't put it on because it doesn't fit the hand, but actually it does. And then they're acquitted. But
the other guy comes in and puts it on.
So then he was the murderer then.
See?
I'm trying to think who else had like one glove in wrestling. Rene Goulet. That's the only one I can think of.
Oh, there's been several guys with just one glove. Some of the Germans.
Blackjack Mulligan.
Blackjack Mulligan had one glove. I'm trying to think.
There's a Michael Jackson impersonator who's a wrestler now on the indies, so maybe him.
But his glove's not black, it's white, isn't it?
It's probably red with all the blood. O.J. Simpson now. Did you? Right, I read with the O.J. Simpson thing. The reason that the glove didn't fit is because somehow like they gave him some drugs or something like that, and they made him like keep his hand dangled for ages, so all the blood would, pool in his hand, so it like basically make his hand twice the size.
Well, when you're putting a glove on, you can spread your fingers and then I don't know. So it had to be, I'm sure that OJ had some big hands because he was a big guy. So it may not have fit and he may not have done it. I don't know. I'm not going to retry the case. They just didn't.
I'm pretty sure he did it.
But he had a jury trial. All he needed was one person on that jury who didn't agree with it, who didn't agree he was guilty. And I think they had 3 or 4 didn't think he was. So it was wasn't a hung jury. He was just not guilty, right?
I think they found him not guilty, yeah. I think so.
Well, that means all 12 people had to say not guilty.
Unbelievable, isn't it? All right, okay.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Haktui. Spit on that glove. Lube that up. It'll fit on them fingers, let me tell you. All right, then.
You were going to tell me something about Andre.
No, that's in the next episode. That's in Ask Dutch Anything. Don't worry, I've not forgot about that, let me tell you. And you were going to tell me about Andre. But for now, I think on that note, well, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back again Tuesday for Ask Dutch Anything. If you want to submit your question for that, once again, it's questionsfordutch@gmail.com. One more thing, the Stevie Richards show that's also co-hosted by yours truly is also out on Fridays. I'm thinking maybe we should start moving that to Thursdays, so like not everything's coming out on Friday, but we'll work on that for now. Anyway, it went very, very well. I encourage you all to watch it. It's going to be available on its own YouTube channel. The link will be in the description, and of course all podcast platforms as well. So yes, I encourage you to watch that. Please support us. But for now, Dutch, we'll see you all again on Tuesday, and we the people.
We the people.